Hello and welcome to the quest for the good life with Dr. Mike Strouse. Today we have very, very special guests. We have Beth McCoach, our Chief Operations Officer at GoodLife Innovations. And we have David McDonald, who is the Director of Technology, among many other things. He's a Renaissance man as well. Um,
I would correct you. Beth is the Chief Operating Officer for iLink Technology. So just make sure we get that down right,
yes,
Guido.
yes, absolutely. And, we were hoping that Beth will remind us what is her character, her favorite movie character that she identifies with.
I think I changed it.
Really? Okay, what is it now?
I had to really think about this last night because it was stressing me out. So it's a TV character. Have you guys seen Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec. That's who I decided.
Why?
Well, she does a lot of service work and she is a leader and she really enjoys her coworkers a lot and loves to spend time with them. And I don't know. I enjoy her.
Leslie.
Leslie Knope.
Okay, that's interesting. And David?
Still a wizard.
The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and if there's anything that I would pivot from being, the Indiana Jones, it would be the Wizard. I mean, I always have been in love with Wizard of Oz. It's just one of my favorite characters of all time. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's endured. I mean, you can watch it there's these movies you're watching and after Clockwork Orange, for example, or
Timeless.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, that you can watch it and it's still kind of all right, but then there's Wizard of Oz, still scares little kids. The flying monkeys are crazy.
They're playing it at the Sphere right now in Las Vegas. They're
Yeah.
playing Wizard of Oz and they're having all kinds of special effects and things shooting up at you and flying monkeys.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I still watch
Some of my childhood movies, I try to watch them with my sons now, and they aren't as cool as they were when I was a kid.
I actually got in trouble. I've been the CEO for 40 years. About 30 years ago, Dr. Jan Sheldon from KU knew I loved the Wizard of Oz. I had the theme all over my office. And for my birthday, she got me a thing to put on my door that says, nobody gets to see the wizard. Because I was just being inundated by people. I put it up and then I actually had a real problem with that. People were like, oh boy, he's just not accessible, which was not the truth, but I was just being funny. But there was a time not to be funny about accessibility, right? So anyway.
I have some news, Mike, a little unexpected, but there has been a sixth blue zone added, and it's very significant and maybe a topic for another conversation, but it's Singapore. And why is it meaningful? Well, because Singapore is the first blue zone that's urban.
Oh,
So all the other 5 blue zones, guys, are rural or islands, isolated somewhat from the diseases of civilization. But Singapore is completely different. It's a big, very, very dynamic, giant city. And the blue zone there is due to the fact that it is a very, very close network of neighborhoods.
yeah.
And people helping people. And, they don't have the cleanest air or maybe the best food, but this component exists.
We got to look into that. I mean, honestly, because it's closer to what we're going for on that, our little Norman Rockwell experiment we have going on. And it's launching now. Commercials are coming out. It's going to be cool. You got to check out our website, but we have some seniors that are demoing how life can be very different with our neighborhood network. And it is a bit what we're talking about today, but we're kind of going into the deep world of what I am calling, and I'm actually doing presentations on this. Just did one. It was a fun one. It was a conference that I did. And it was called the privacy paradox. And I'm going to introduce it today to everybody. And we got the right group to talk about this, because the reality is why I called it the privacy paradox is because we are on this absolutely being, I call it Fred Flintstone-like, mentality about cameras. And I want to explore that a bit because, people are making rules that aren't really rules. They're just like seat of the pants rules about cameras breach privacy and sensors. It's not just cameras, sensors breach privacy. And it's like, if you have a camera or sensor, you've got to go through human rights approval and this, that, and the other. And we've got to address this because the privacy paradox is the very thing they're trying to protect, privacy. They're not advancing it because of the policies that they have on the use of cameras and technology in general, sensors and everything. They're actually moving against privacy, and they're moving against other requirements of care like independence and being able to receive services in the least intrusive environment and everything, all because and accessibility, the inability for people with complex care to live with greater independence. All of this is happening, all of it, because they have invented restrictions that absolutely don't exist. And they're doing it because they don't understand it. And I want to explore it, but I guess before I explore it, I want to talk about normal. I mean, just normal stuff, like what's become normal. Because the truth is, and this is, I'm going to get pushback by saying this, I'm sure, but the truth is, I don't think we give a flying flip about privacy. I think we give a flying flip about being normal. And here's why. At the last conference, I held up my iPhone like this. I said, look, I just want you to be honest with me. There's probably 100 people out there, maybe more. How many guys have an iPhone? Hold it up if you have it. Literally everybody. I mean, I don't know if Samsung has any market share out there, but it was literally everybody's holding up, some version of an iPhone, right? I said, well, let me ask you something. I'm going to ask you a couple questions about your iPhone. How many of you guys take this thing into the bathroom with you and you sort of peruse on, Facebook or whatever you do? I mean, at first out of 100, like you'd see one or two, and then all of a sudden you see, it was like a wave of, literally everybody put their hand up. I mean, everybody, at least at that conference, and I'm sure that was pretty representative, like would take their iPhone into the bathroom and read the news or look at, Facebook or wherever. And I said, y'all see a camera on this side, right? Look at the other side of it. Where's that pointing? And they all laughed and they thought it was funny. And I said, well, the thing is, guys must be comfortable with this. Is it with all you guys doing this and where you take this iPhone and how you use it, it's just become normal, hasn't it? You're not thinking about privacy with this. But the truth of the matter is this iPhone is just a device. Dave, more this more than anything else, it's just hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's got, I think, 7 sensors built in. You don't get to pick them. And this kind of smacks in the face of a lot of things that we're doing, we'll talk about, but you don't get to pick what's in your iPhone. It's 7 sensors and 4 cameras. That's what it is. You don't say, well, I don't want that sensor, or I really just don't want any of the cameras facing backwards. Well, guess what? Too bad, right? How do they control the use of those sensors and stuff, Dave? What is it? The hardware?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought it was really the software that
that controls the sensors. Yes.
Yeah. So actually, it's a piece of hardware that's kind of prefabbed. The software, the operating system, combined with the actual apps, control what features are used, what you like. Does this app allow location services for tracking?
Yeah.
And they all ask you, does it have access to the mic? Does it have access to the camera? So, the other day I had my watch on and my lid of my car came down and I need to get some out. So I tried to reach in real fast and I knocked it against the iPhone and I immediately got an SOS sent out or it was trying to send it out that I fell. Right. Well, what's that accelerometer? I don't know if that's an accelerometer or whatever that is, but all that met the profile of the fall. But I could configure that it would wait 30 seconds before doing it. And then it would have been going out to my son. And it's happened a couple of times. He's called me, after I've done it. And sometimes I do it just to see if he's, paying attention, this stuff. But what I'm trying to get at is that it's normal there. And everybody used to be up in arms about Alexa, Dave and Beth, right? I mean, everybody was like, when they first came out, part of the reason, especially the shows, that's the one with the video.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason that they did that is like, have you ever gone shopping with your iPhone? And then all of a sudden, wherever you're shopping for, it's on your Amazon Alexa when you get home. Yeah. Is that?
And it's on all your ads
Yeah.
for if you're looking at other apps too. Yeah.
So is that beacon technology? What is?
I think it's listening half the time. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it must be because, I mean, it's not like by accident. I mean, I went out looking for a smokeless fire pit and it was on my Alexa when I got home.
Oh boy.
Or on my Facebook, or if I shop on Amazon, it connects what I'm looking at to those sorts of things. So you can call that privacy or you can call it convenience, but it's normal, right?
It's become normal.
It's just become normal. People don't have a problem. I have a Amazon show in my kitchen because my wife loves to watch this 1,000 influencers cook. I mean, she's crazy about that. That's what she does. And so she'll go look up and do a recipe and it's showing that, but sometimes she watches it live while she's doing the other kinds of things. So yeah, it has a camera. You can put like a little eyelid over it if you want to be like that. But most people think, well, me, I don't care. I mean, if they wanted to watch me in the kitchen, whoever they is, I pity them, but other people do, and I get it. And there's protections for all of that, but I'm just saying it's normal.
Well, I think your point to the bathroom is well taken. People don't bring their phone in and cover the cameras with tape, so they can't be seen. It's just normal.
They just trust it.
Mm-hmm. Completely,
and they trust it for them. They trust it for them. I go, and it kind of moved from that to like remote, like conferencing. How has that improved our lives? Honestly. I mean, people stay at home and Evo, you were going to do this podcast and it said you couldn't.
Yeah.
But because we needed to be present to do it because we're doing it around the table today, but you could.
Yeah.
Do it. And I did a podcast. I was in Alaska.
Yeah.
We did a podcast with two leaders in Alaska. Now they were right there in the same building with me, but we decided it would work better to just do it from our room.
Yeah.
I have meetings Monday morning and some of the people they're in this building join remotely because they want to have their stuff, out and have it when they have the meeting. They're not being disrespectful. They're like wanting to be maximally productive. Or you'll be at home and you have a video conference and you don't want anybody to see your messy house. So you put a background up, right? I personally have always wanted to put a background in my office up so I can stay at home and make people think that I'm at my office. I mean, that's where I want to go with this whole thing. But we all know that like I went to the Chiefs game last year.
Yeah.
And I did have a big meeting right before it, and I didn't want to stay at home, so I did it from my car. right before the games. I mean, literally, the point on this is technology has allowed for us to just live normal lives and get other people out of the way. I mean, I had this thing like about the store. I remember like Blockbuster, and then you had Netflix that had technology and changed the business plan. It eliminated the need to go to the store. Well, now it's happened that way in doctor's visits and, talk space for therapy.
Mhm.
Or, I mean, and those that are, smart enough to know what works and what doesn't work. I mean, you can get astrological readings from it too, in person. So, I mean, those are a little bit more expensive, but you can still get them. But my point is, you can have all of that stuff without leaving your home, without on your schedule, really without getting in your way of life, so you can live life a normal way. And so, all of that, I would definitely say post-COVID has become completely normal. I don't know if I said this in the last podcast, but I had a misbehaving Roomba and found out that there's one place in Kansas City that could fix it, that I could take it. Be a little old-fashioned, that's what I was going to do. And then it said, or you can hit this number and we can do it remotely. Now, well, I really don't want to go to the other side of Kansas City and then wait a week to get it back. So it's my Roomba's Jeeves. That's my name for it. And so Jeeves was not behaving well. So I hit the thing and got right to a support person. Really did. And they said, well, I'm going to send you a link so I can see what the heck's going on. Is that okay? Yeah. So they sent me a link, hit that link, and it was a forward-facing camera that immediately came on, which was really cool. That's where we got that idea for our technology, And he was looking straight at my Roomba, and he guided me through what to do. It was really, I could never have done it just audio. But what he saw, because he would see all the interface of all of that, and he was able to tell me exactly what to do. Maybe 15 minutes, Jeeves was fixed and he was off doing his thing again. And that happened at like 8:00 at night,
Yeah.
I didn't have to drive anywhere. I didn't have to do anything, but he needed the camera to do that.
And by the way, your Roomba, it has a camera in it being used as an optical sensor.
Isn't
So
that crazy?
they're everywhere.
Well, I think it's important that we make that distinction that a camera, just like that iPhone, is just a device.
Exactly.
It senses light. And then it can turn that into a video and send it, or it can do other fun things with it. For example, facial recognition can occur at the camera level, but never send any video. In fact, video doesn't even have to exist. It's just using camera technology as a sensor.
And I think that's a misconception. At that point, is it even a camera? If a camera is not sending any video, where's that line? It's not a camera.
And you know what? I think that you really nailed it, because like a camera is like this generic Flintstone word
Mm-hmm.
that started out with a piece of paper and a hole through it and a couple of other things, and it's never evolved to what it really is. It's a sophisticated piece of technology that allows a lot of things, including the transmission of video data.
Which has become a small percentage of what it can do now.
But it's really, yeah. So you get into a Tesla, or you get into I got I just bought a EV car, and it's really cool because I have a regular one and I have that. So I feel like I have both options on that, but we really like it. We've never been to a gas station here. It's just do it overnight. It's just pretty cool, but it's self-driving. Dave, I mean, I'm on the highway. I'm watching this big old screen, and it's sending radar out, and I can see it. I mean, I think it's video just for my own, comfort. But it's like before it takes a turn, you see this radio wave goes out on the screen, and it's like you can see it where it sees, and in terms of like it caught a car there, and it just makes a little dot there, puts the signal on, and it goes out, and you can see it. And I mean, it looks like it's got some incredible technology, but you can't see it. If a car's in your blind side, you don't get a video of the blind side. You just get a
notification,
some type of flash or a buzz or both or whatever that happens. To the point being, a camera, the worst thing about a camera is they call it a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they should probably call it an optic sensor, because that's really what it is. I mean, a sophisticated infrared camera combined with software can tell you, without waking somebody up in a bedroom, can tell if somebody's continent. It looks at thermal images and it evaluates how like if you're incontinent, there's a heat, change in a specific part of your body, and it can detect, that change that's more rapid than what would otherwise be the case. And it's a 90% chance that you're incontinent. Okay. Now, it's doing all of that at a device level without any connection other than sending a text to somebody that Fred's incontinent. Fred needs to be checked on. It's not showing you a picture of Fred. So my point is, they've got all of this technology out there that is so useful. And somebody that just watched a Fred Flintstone movie and says, we can't have a camera. I don't understand how you could simplify something to that level. But even let's say that you did, I mean, I guess my fun analogy would be, I can just envision, sort of a regulator sort of approach to angioplasty, where angioplasty is a camera on a stick. It's not silly, but it's a camera that's a micro camera that goes into your vein, can look at your heart, and you can actually do microsurgery. Same doctor that used to do open heart surgery is now doing it in outpatient and repairing a leaky heart valve, where before you had to actually have open heart surgery, right? I mean, can you imagine somebody saying, well, unfortunately, Ben, angioplasty uses a camera. So you really got two choices, pal. You could go and do open heart surgery because that would be more private. Or we could just eliminate the camera on the angioplasty, and I think I can get that passed. I mean,
it almost sounds silly when you say it that way.
It sounds ridiculous, but
well, let me say one other thing, Mike, to really drive this home, because it's about care. It's about care, and that's where we're going to end up going to next. Care is delivered by a caregiver in the home. Caregiver has eyes. They have ears. They have feelings or sensors, right? They can smell a fire and they can sense things, and they can act. So you look at the capabilities of a human in the home. They can see, they can hear, they can act, they can sense, right? They have all those capabilities. And when they're in a home, they're either in a home or not in a home. And so if they're in a home, they're usually, as you know, they're waiting. They're not there. Like most needs are not scheduled. They're intermittent, right? They happen because life unfolds and somebody has to go to the bathroom, or that somebody's not feeling well, or somebody has, forget something or needs some help, but you don't know when and you don't know where. It's like my mom and dad, when they were still alive, they could do 90% of the things they needed to do to be independent, but there was 10% they couldn't do it, but that was intermittent. So they had to trade 90% independence for 100% care, because there was no way for, I gave the analogy in the last presentation of Bewitched. It's like, boom, I'm in it. I'm there, and then you're gone. That's my idea of care. Like I want somebody, I want to snap my fingers. I want them to appear. And when they're done, I want to snap them again. I want them to go away, because I want to live my life unencumbered by those kinds of things. Well, in-home care can't work that way because you got to either be there or not, and you don't know when to be there, and you got to have a deployment system. I mean, we worked all those things out, but technology was like essential to that. But let me go back to my analogy. Caregivers are in the home and they have all those capabilities. So let's make that analogy to you, Beth, with your boss. I'm your boss, right? I mean, it never comes out that way because I don't feel like your boss ever. But like I'm theoretically your boss. Let's just put it that way. Let me ask you this. We've known each other for a long time, but even though we have, would you rather have a remote meeting with me from your home where you can change your background, you can do all those kind of things, and you can have a meeting with me? Or would you rather me just pop into your home and have a meeting with you in person?
I think I would choose the remote meeting.
Which is more
Yeah.
private to you?
Definitely the remote meeting.
Yeah, but I'll say that. I said that at a conference because I don't think people are expecting the question. They were expecting remote versus, whatever with somebody else. But the analogy is like, would you rather me as your boss come, have a remote meeting with you, or would you rather me, come into your home and meet with you in your home? Because that's what care is. It's in your home,
I mean,
right?
and these are really important analogies because they do draw a direct comparison.
It does.
Absolutely.
And I ask you, which is more private, and which can you even make more private than that? You can turn your video on, you can turn it off when it's needed, you can change your background. I don't get to see you don't have messy laundry, I'm sure, but if you did, I wouldn't see it, or your kids that are walking by or whatever,
Right.
the things is you can control that with technology, right? But you can't control it if I just walk in there because I, as a human, I am surveilling. I'm surveilling stuff. I'm waiting for a need. I'm sensing. I'm looking at things. You can't control what I see. You can't control what I hear. If I want to look left, I'll look left. If I want to look right, I'll look right. If I smell something foul, I'll smell it foul, right? All those things are things that I can do as a human. You may not have any relationship with me at all, and I may be a neatnik coming into your home, and you've got a few things laying around, and you don't like that. But with technology, for example, with cameras, we've done this. We've digitally blocked out any area of the house that we don't want to see. We can fuzz everything, including the human. We can turn the person can self-direct, turning them on and off and into privacy mode.
Well, the experience is completely controlled.
It's controlled. Every aspect
Completely.
of it is controlled. You get the right camera, the right software. Guarantee you that I just spoke of is superior than your iPhone. Yet, people don't have a problem with this, and they have a problem with that, but they don't have a problem with somebody coming in the house. How is all that possible? I'm going to tell you how it's possible in a minute because I actually know how it's possible. But it's crazy. It makes no sense. And I've never talked to anybody sanely about it where they agree that it makes any sense. It's like, what is that saying is, do what I say, not what I do. What's good for me is good for thee. It's evidently not. So we're prohibiting all of these advances in privacy because we're scared about the technology that we use every day for ourselves. And we don't know enough about it to just not make a simple rule. For example, I throw out an IDD, there's a whole group of efforts of trying to pick what sensors can be used or what sensors can't be used, like you can do it in your iPhone, right? And they're doing that because they don't know that it's actually software that is what's controlling that, not. So if they pretend software doesn't exist and they want to buy everything off the shelf, and it's like, I'm going to buy all this stuff. The only simple way that you can control things is like, I don't want that. I do want this. I'm not going to have that sensor. I'm going to have this. But, life doesn't unfold that way. I mean, like somebody wakes up and they're sick. They may need something they didn't need yesterday. Software lets that happen. It's just so I go back to the privacy paradox, and I'm going to talk to you about care. But the privacy paradox is that we're prohibiting the very things that we want by how we're regulating things that can give it to us. We're prohibiting what we want. And it is crazy because they just don't understand what's possible. So let me tell you this. I think it's interesting. Now, I always use the words that a little scary here, but there are federal rules. CMS, other industries have federal rules, are really important, and they have been built upon landmark legal cases that I could go over. ADA and lawsuits with Willowbrook, and I mean the history of rights goes back so far. One of those, and I guess what I want to let you know is there are many federally required expectations of care. There are many, and there are some that are really, really important. Let me throw out some, and I think everybody would agree. I'm not giving a full list, but independence, maximizing a person's independence is put into a lot of federal code. It's certainly what everybody would love to do. You ask my parents, and if they would rather be independent or not, they're going to tell you that's like number one for them, only trumped by, bad word, only overtaken by safety, right? So, but independence is one. Personal safety is other. Freedom from abuse, neglect, exploitation. But in federal, codes is all over there. Choice, inclusion, accessibility. Those are all federal expectations of care. Our goal and how we help and support somebody is very interesting. All of those expectations of care are there, but there's one overriding one that we've forgotten about, and it covers everything more than anything else. We are to use the least intrusive, potentially effective approach to care that can advance those expectations of care. Does that make sense? That requirement predated the existence of technology. And by the way, privacy is also an expectation of care. Ironically, that all the requirements of privacy in the federal, sort of codes around privacy predated the existence of technology. You know what they applied to? They applied to staff for the most part. Staff. So it's like, if you as a staff person would go into a home and you didn't knock before you entered.
Yeah.
Or if you opened up somebody's care records and put it on the table in front of other people that didn't need to see those care records. Privacy, it would say, we have to protect that. And staff, in fact, CMS came through and gave a lot of citations on several corporations where they have breached privacy because they didn't knock before they came in, or because, they opened up care books in front of other people and did it in common areas, and other kind of breaches of privacy, because it's privacy where privacy is most expected, right? Privacy. But the reality is we've accepted staff's presence as not breaching privacy. You know why, Dave? Why we accepted them?
No.
Because that's the only way care could exist. Up until now, it was the only way that care could exist. Example, back to the science, medical science, before angioplasty, you had open heart surgery. It was standard practice. If you needed your leaky heart valve fixed, you had to be cut open. But now with the existence of angioplasty, for most conditions, open heart surgery isn't even, you don't have the choice even to pick it because it's a hierarchy that's been established. But then there are things, and this is kind of where I'm going to get into the care discussion. There are things, though, that are not so clear. Like, Beth, there may be times when you want a caregiver to come in the home, but there may be times where you want it to be remote, right? And it's not clear which is, to you, more or less intrusive. And maybe I think it probably does.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it might depend on who it is that's coming into your home. If it's your your son or your daughter or your husband, and you needed something, maybe you're more comfortable with that. But if it's somebody you don't know, maybe, and the need could be met remotely. I think that's an important thing. And
Right.
the need could be met remotely. You probably would pick remote. I mean, I certainly picked remote for my Rumba. And it was coming to my home or not, or you picked remote for your boss. And I can't think of a time where you would not want to do that, but it's either so well established, like angioplasty versus open heart surgery. So it comes into a hierarchy. And that's really by medical science. Some behavioral techniques are more restrictive than other. I'm a behavioral analyst. So some behavioral techniques are more restrictive than others. You can't even choose the ones that's more restrictive. You have to choose the ones that can do the job. Don't forget that part. It's got to be able to be effective, but you can't use a more intrusive method or a burst method for effective if a positive approach can be used. So that's a hierarchy. Once you really know, that's there. But when you don't know, or in this case, it's like care ebbs and flows and needs ebb and flow. What things can be met in person versus remote ebbs and flows. I mean, to me, and that's why we invented the neighborhood network. We invented the neighborhood network because it was a deployment system that could be delivered within 5 minutes and need 24/7, right? That's what we did. Well, the thing is, then we have now the ability for somebody to self-direct and tell us, what you want? Would you like us to come in, or would you like us to be remote? Or I could know so well to say, I can't do that remote, so I'll need to come in. Is that okay? So the bottom line is there's no a priori one-time choice of it will be remote or it will be in person, because that would not be normal. Wouldn't be normal. Wouldn't be like anybody else does it. The best situation is every need should have that choice if you're really good. And if you have a system, a model that can deliver care, ebbs and flows, and they get to pick what is, how could that not be the least intrusive method to deliver care?
And the most private.
And the most private.
It's amazing. Like you gave up your little bit of privacy by getting that remote support that you got. That was your choice. How long did that last? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
For what you needed, and you're back to completely private.
But if you couldn't self-direct care, if there wasn't a way to deploy it, and you just had to schedule care to be in the home to wait for that need.
Right.
How can anybody make a choice or make a case that that's more private than being bewitched, and you snapping your fingers and you're saying, I want care, and you snap them again and say, please go away?
It's what people are used to. It's just antiquated thinking. They're not forward thinking about the technology the rest of us use every day.
But no one would.
There and the really weird thing is, I told you those things of care. Literally, the way I view it is should line that up on a grid. You should have, throw in privacy. You should have independence. You should have choice, self-direction, personal safety, and you should throw in accessibility. All of that should be there.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, what method is going to advance all of those expectations of care the most? Because it's kind of a balancing thing. You can't like some things work against independence, you know? And so like, what's going to make you the most independent? What's going to be the most private? Well, I can pretty much make a case that most remote support, if it can deliver the care that they need, if that, there's hardly a case you can't make that is not more private and more targeted than in-person care. So here's kind of where I was going with all this. When you do remote support, Beth, you have to have the same capabilities that you have when you do in-home care. My point. I mean, literally, if you're in home and you need your eyes to deliver care, and you need your hands to deliver care, and you need, you need your senses, and you need to hear, and you need to speak. If you need that to deliver care in a home, you need it to deliver care remotely. I mean, you got to have it all. And if you have it all, then you can deliver more help remotely. So people have the choice between remote care and other. But if all of a sudden what you do is you say, well, I don't want you to be able to see and hear. I don't want you to be able to sense. No sensor, nothing. I don't want you to have any of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, remote isn't a choice because it can't be effective.
Get back to
So now you put that regret in, and now you've reduced independence, you've reduced privacy because they have to be in the home. You've reduced personal safety even. You've reduced, and then, I'll get to people and say, well, we just don't want to have sensors. And I go, well, that's too bad. So what do I do with all these smoke detectors? And they say, like, what do you mean? Well, they're sensors, pal. They're a sensor. What about the carbon monoxide? Where should I put those? You want the lights to go on when somebody walks by so that it's safe for falling. How about that seizure detection? You want to know that, or do you want to know they fall, or that's not really that important? What about the temperature on the shower? Is it okay that goes at 115 or 20 degrees? What do you think? And it's like, well, no, I don't mean that.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, you do mean that, because you just gave a blanket thing, and it's like, no sensors. All these things, if they were there, that's why I go back to, if you combine the sensors with software, which nobody is doing, I mean, we do. Now, all of a sudden, somebody can get up from the bed and they can walk to the bathroom, and then they can walk back to bed, and the sensors and the software filter that out as well. That's just normal, right? But then they go to the bathroom, and then they stay for 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 minutes. You tell me what would be a concern, and then if they did, well, are you okay then, to send out a notice? I used to tell people, on Star, if you have an accident, they come on automatically. You okay with that? Well, yeah, everybody was okay with that. And I said, let me ask you something else. What if your daughter was coming home at midnight from the prom or wherever, and a deer jumped out and she had an accident, and OnStar came on and there was no sound whatsoever, no response when they asked her if she was okay? How many of you guys would be okay if a camera came on then? And 100% would say, well, yeah, that'd be all right. So it isn't about any of these things. It's how they're used. And the point being is, I don't care if it's a camera for facial recognition that all of a sudden, Beth, you walk up to the medication device and they know it's you as opposed to me. They're not sending pictures of it. They're just used it for as a sensor for facial recognition, right? Now they're giving you feedback on your medicine of which ones that you're supposed to take, or a reminder or whatever, or reminding that somebody's trying to get you to take you to work. Or the weather's cold, make sure when you leave at 10 o'clock today, Beth, bring your jacket or bring your umbrella, or whatever, all of that goes. But it knows it's you instead of me. And if it didn't, and it just gave that when somebody was near it, and they're giving all this advice about your personal things, in front of me, right? So where all of this is going is we've gone completely Fred Flintstone off the rails here because we just don't understand. And we're prohibiting the use of cameras, or we're prohibiting the use of sensors, when that's not the point at all. The point is how can you, what methodology advances care in the least intrusive way possible? And you're going to have to insert a word that nobody wants to do, but they have to do, and that is compared to what? I mean, that's what somehow it's like you're looking at the intrusiveness of angioplasty without comparing to the fact they had to do open heart surgery if they don't have if they don't use angioplasty. If you only looked at angioplasty and you said, well, it uses a camera, and that causes a problem for me. Do you say, here's angioplasty, and if you don't use it, you're going to have to use open heart surgery? I mean, it takes less than 3 seconds for any human to make a decision on that, right? But we're not doing that in care now. We're basically giving in-home care a free pass. Why? Not because there's any regulatory capability of doing it. No, sir. There is. The privacy applies to it. Just because it did before technology, and nothing's changed. It applied to care. It only gave it a pass because there was no other way to deliver care. But now we've invented something, guys. There's more options out there. We have a regulatory obligation to compare every technique that we use to advance care to what would otherwise be used if we didn't use that technique. So if I need to meet with Beth, we can talk about the merits of video conferencing from your home. Or we could just say, well, we can't do that, but I have to come in your home. And, you know, that discussion would last less than 30 seconds with any employee that I know. Yet we have this ability to be sort of a bit hypocritical.
It's different when somebody thinks about it for themselves, but when they think about it for somebody else, it's just completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're now in the world where we've gone to the Jetsons and Bewitched. The message has to get across that our overall goal is to use a least intrusive approach to care that can advance the most important care expectations. And there are many of them, including privacy, like independence and choice and self-direction and personal safety and accessibility and inclusion. All of those are expectations of the care. And there are many of them are expectations of the final rule, of the settings rule. So our job is to do that. And that's what we should be keeping our eye on. But what we're doing is we're looking at the components instead of the capabilities on how they're used. And we're trying to do surgery simply by removing the components. And by removing the components, we made that option not an option, which is then not advancing those care expectations. So the privacy paradox is we're doing things that's inversely relating to what we want to do and pushing us back to standard care, which we're not in any way holding accountable. So the word is, when you start looking at this stuff, is like, it's okay, remote support. It should be compared to what would be used if you don't use it. That's the requirement. How else can you use the least intrusive unless you're comparing it to something, right? So that's our job. And we're not doing our job. We're trying to make simple rules when it's not simple. And we're getting in the way of real advances in care. So we need to be looking at those things that do that. And we're recognizing the fact that sensors can advance independence. It can advance privacy. Your iPhone advances it because it uses the camera to advance privacy. You know, so that's the job that we got to do. We got to stop doing, you know, sort of the Fred Flintstone approach to advances in anything by saying we got to have, you know, well, we got round wheels, but they're concrete. It just can't work that way. So we're getting in our own way. People are not, doing this. They're pushing people back to that. And people with complex, by the way, this goes to people with complex care needs. I mean, you may even be in a group home with complex care, but you still don't have a nurse or a behavioral analyst or a specialist. Why would you have to go to a store to get those things when you can have those things pop up in your home? Why do you have to have somebody come in your home to supervise when somebody can remotely supervise without intruding on your home? And you can also map out what they can and can't see and those sort of things. There's no comparison here, guys. So the only thing that it isn't yet is it isn't normal. This is why I was saying I don't think there's anything to do with privacy. I think it's to do with being normal. But, all new things are not normal until they become normal. And all new things have to compare to what would be in place if that new thing wasn't available. And we've got to do that, because if we don't, we will be in the Stone Age when everybody else is, Jetsons and Bewitched. And, I'm so blessed to work with seniors right now, because what I love about working with seniors is they will decide to do what they want to do for their best interests. And they pay for what they get. 70% are private pay. So they don't want to pay for things that are overly intrusive. They don't want to have people in their home. They want to live with greater independence. Sometimes so much independence that they don't get any care to the point where they really need it. But, it's good to see that. So what do you guys think about all this tirade that I've been on today?
I think it's really important for people to make that comparison. You're having sometimes a stranger in your home that is a very intrusive situation versus looking at what your technology options are and understanding that we're not trying to take the humans out of human services. It's a combination approach to have in-care support when you need it and virtual support when you can handle that as well. It makes you much more independent. And the people we get a lot of feedback on, people love it. They feel more independent. They feel they're having privacy.
And you pick one over the other can change every day.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the technology, I think it's to me, it's the word camera needs to just go away. I mean, at this point, it's just they're sensing a situation as needed when it happens. And I think that's the big thing with technology is by having somebody in a home sitting there 24/7, you're
surveillance.
So literally, you're who would want the Roomba technician sitting on their couch until the Roomba broke? And that's kind of, to me, it's about as simple as it gets.
Yeah.
No one would want that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents are 5,000 miles away, right? And their biggest problem is I am the only relative they have. I'm the only child, and it's just me and my kids, their grandchildren. So they don't get to see us. And I got them an Alexa. And now we see each other every day at noon. Every day at noon we talk. And when I installed the Alexa for them, I was a little worried, and I said, "Do you feel like it's invasive?" And they just answered, "Can we get one for the kitchen as well?" That was the, I was, as we were talking, I checked the definition of a paradox. And this is a statement, concept, or a situation that seems self-contradictory or logically impossible, but which may contain a deeper truth or reveal a flaw in our understanding upon closer examination.
The privacy paradox.
Privacy paradox. Having somebody come into your home and invade your personal space, we deem that privacy. How absurd is this? This is the definition of a paradox.
It is. And how absurd is it, Beth, that when you finally got that analogy where would you rather meet remotely with your boss or would you rather have your boss come into your home? And everybody just laughs universally, right, that they don't get it when that could be applied to care. It's just silly, isn't it?
They just don't make the comparison
Yeah.
at all.
So let's get T-shirts to say, or hats like people has to say compared to what. I think what we should do is the new campaign should be compared to what. So anyway, guys, that's the privacy paradox, and that's the podcast today. It's important that we have a reset on this if we really want to get to where we want to go.
Yeah, this was a great conversation, great episode. We were together with Beth McCoach, Chief Operations Officer of iLink and Deputy Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation at Pawnee, Indiana.
That's right, Pawnee, Indiana.
Beth McCoach, and we had David McDonald, our Director of Technology, and your host was not Mike McStrauss. It was Mike Strouse. We had McCoach, McDonald, Dr. Strouse, and your co-host, Steve Ivanov. Thanks for being with us. We will meet again in exactly 2 weeks. This was the quest for the good life.